Hello YouTube friends, welcome to the Red Parrot channel. I am your host Mary Ellen. This is an episode of eco printing and eco dyeing, or eco printing and eco dyeing, depending on the side of the pond you are on. This is part 2. So this is the washed and dried version of the first dye session that I had using K3N's cloth tail method. That's a lot. It's not going to fit in the header. So I need to take notes because dyeing is essentially chemistry. And if chemistry is a science, then we would say that there needs to be a bit of a scientific approach, let's say. So this essentially is the first run, the first test. So if it turned out good, if it turned out bad, it literally doesn't matter. And that applies to not only dyeing, but anything that you try. You try something once and it's a total miss, that's okay. That's totally okay. You just try again. Because you've learned something in the process of not doing great. And I think personally, I've learned a lot. So this, as a general reminder, is what we started with. Well, let's do that. Just as a background so we know this is from whence we have started. Threads and all. So that's the color, that was the sheet, and we will go through one by one panels. So here's panel number 1. So what do I see in this panel? There's the fullness of it, and then there is the back. How does that print? It prints about the same. Okay, so what do I see? I see a bunch of things. So I see this is iron, this is the iron bits, circles, iron bits. Must have been an iron bit. And then over here, iron bit as well. And a fairly soft brownish in the background, though it does have some variegation. Couple of things to note. One, there is this, and that's bright white, and there's also these other bits here of white. This was a crease, I think. So the white, it's 2 parts to the white. The first part is that when I dyed the fabric initially in tea, first one I plunged one in at a time and had enough room to get the whole thing completely soaked. The last ones I kind of balled up and crammed in, and so there was some creasing that happened, and I don't think the tea got all the way to that area. So that's a useful piece of information, very tie-dyed, and I need to show you the salt that I used. So this is the salt. It is Himalayan pink salt from the dollar store at $1.25. So cheap salt, and it is grinded. So there's a grind at the top, and fairly coarse salt. You can see pieces there that are quite coarse, and then there's some fine. So I think some of this splodging here is the coarse salt. So that's useful to know. No idea if I'm going to say Himalayan. Ow, there's a cut on my hand somewhere. Boy, you put salt in your hand, you find that out soon enough. I don't know if Himalayan salt is just salt. It says Himalayan rock salt, K. I don't know that that's any different from salt. And the difference maybe here is the shape and the materiality of the salt. So it's not a fine grain, it is little chunks of salt that are creating this effect. So that's number 1. I also used instant coffee instead of coffee grounds, and I probably used a copious amount. That's the way I'm going to measure that. And so that might also have contributed to the level of difference. But the iron came out wonderfully. It's just really a whole pile of yum. So there's that. So there's one. Yeah, so that's going to be nice. That's one. I think I have four to do. We'll just, so number 2. So this is number 2. Let's do it this way. It just feels better to have the dark in the bottom and the light at the top. Not sure why, possibly because this was getting at the, as the pan was getting full. And there were a couple of times where I splodged in some more tea because I was worried that the coffee, because it's instant and it was absorbing the water, wouldn't have enough water to absorb. So I added some more, and not a huge surprise, water sinks to the bottom. So the bottom ones were probably darker for that particular reason. So this came out all right. So you can see iron color here, soft. That's possibly another crease. Let's go to this side. This is where the iron grate was. Remember that, the wonderful forged? You can see the grating that happens there. And there's also really fun kind of swirly, like organic scushing around that was happening, like kind of like an oil stain flow that's kind of fun. And then this is the flip side. And this has got more, this must have been the contact side. So a lovely circle there. And then some more very clear iron chunks put on it, and a couple of bits of intense salt. So that's that one. Again, not at all a fail. It is different than what Catherine got because of a whole pile of differences. Different method, different material, different water. So that is also nice, but I am getting variation in what I am making, which is really, I think, the whole point, and sort of dulling down colors. So this is number 3. How does this one go? So here's 3. So this one's got some thread bits, don't need that. So this one turned out okay as well. This has got a lot of really just funky blah, 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 blah. This is one of the lighter teed ones. And we'll flip it over. And this must have been, was this the contact side? This might have been the contact side. But lots of dark patterning that isn't particularly you can't see that it's a thing. It is just modeled, which is kind of fun. This is the other side of the contact for that iron grid there. And this is a lot of probably swirly salt. So again, those splashes of color here with the dark is kind of fun. All right, there we are. So there's that. It's 2, 3. No, it's 3. We're on 3. 3. And then this is the 4th one. Which way does this go? Oh, sorry. I just hit you. So yes, we're okay. So this is the last one. And this one, I think 100% is the one that had the least amount of tea, because there is just barely any, and it probably was at the top of the pan as well. So that will matter, because if you have more than enough tea, then your bottom is going to be soaked in the tea and won't dry. So this one's got a lot of the funky circle patterns that we are used to seeing, the bits and pieces. Same here. I didn't think about this top part of the sheet until after. I don't know why I'm just silly. This is a whole pile of really interesting fabric that's at the top. This is like a perfect sleeve. So that's useful. I'm glad I didn't cut it off, and I'm glad I have dyed it because it picked up some bits. Now I'm flipping over the other side, and you can see sort of more clearly that there is iron bits there. And then more sort of salt blobs. So I haven't ironed this, that's fine. Does the crease bring out anything? Yeah, so the crease dyed specifically differently, I think, which is kind of interesting. So there we are, those are the results. This one here, you can see more what Catherine was getting at in terms of the variegation of color into the, that's almost black, a dark gray, browns. This is kind of like a purpley brown, and then get the whites and then the bits of rust. This is possibly the one that's got the most color variation in it. But that's just really fun. Like that as a square would be epic. So let us fold that up, and we need to, oops, this is from here. So I'm going to do another round of this today, and that goes in the orc jar. Because I want to see if I can get some variation. And I also have this hideous fabric that I want to change the color of. Because it's hideous. So, I need a pen. Here's a pen. I'll use this. So this is K3N Cloth Tails Iron Tea dye. And this is February 4/24. Okay, so I used the same tea that she did. So I used 12 bags of Thai Fu tea. And I used it in a I'm going to say large, and large doesn't help anybody. This 4 cups. 4 cups, 1 quart. So 4 cups, measuring cup. And I steeped it for 5 minutes. Then, so what did I add? So it was a fast dip. Layered on iron pieces. Added probably like a tablespoon of cheap. Really? Instant coffee. Yep, well, I finished a pen. That's yay us. Oh, I gotta go get a pen. Hang on, I'll be right back. It just is. I get up and down 100 times. It's ridiculous. So I added about a tablespoon of cheap instant coffee. I added Himalayan lei pink salt. Are you gonna run out on me too? I only have about 50,000 different pens in the house, and I am apparently picking up all the ones that don't write. And this is ground. And I think the grinding allows for chunks of salt. Did I do anything else? Nope. Layer, layer, layer. Cover. Wait 24 hours. Then, what did I do this morning? So this morning, so remove all the bits. Rinse fabric a lot, and I probably had to do a ton of it because I had so much coffee in it. Then I soaked fabric in sodium bicarb. To neutralize the acid. I washed in machine. It was a 10-minute cycle. Medium water, hot, cold, and then tumble dried. So that is test number 1. So now we have, this is probably why I like dyeing so much, because it's basically lab work. And I love lab work because it's so interesting to see how you can change things. So what is it that I want or don't want? I think what I want is this to be a little lighter. So we've got that shade. I want something that is less intense. Is there a pencil? So here's the thing with experiments. I can change everything, and if I get a different result, I don't know which thing had the most influence on the color. And so that's where we get the idea of a hypothesis, where we say, you know what, I think that this is what happened. And so you then go and do it over again and just adjust the one thing that you think had the influence and see if it works. So I think my biggest problem was the coffee. I think I added way too much coffee. Salt worked. Coffee and this fast tea dip. Don't add any more tea. So just let it be dry. And if I use less coffee, then I won't be necessarily compelled to. I'm just playing around with this on the side, just flipping it over back and forth. I would love also in the future to play around with this, because I think this is open for tie-dye folding. There's a Japanese term, shiburi? I think it's shiburi, where you can do very like complex, you know, pleating, and then you might do like another pleat this way, and then another pleat this way, and then, you know, you fold it up, and then you fold it up, and then you fold it up, and you fold it up. And then when you dip it in its original tea, or the original, I think they do it using indigo, the indigo doesn't get a chance to get into the very center, so it leaves it white, but then the stuff that's exposed is a dark, beautiful blue. And then when they open it up, you get these beautiful patterns. I think it's shiburi. Bori? Shibori, I think. I'll check. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to have a little test of this, because this is 8 Ways to Hideous. And I should also, on here, what I need is a dye manual or a dye book. And I think I might have one somewhere, but I have no idea where it is. Oh, I do too. Yeah, I do have one somewhere. I'll have to go look for it. I need a sample of this, and I need a sample of that as a way of being able to record. I did this with that, and this is what I got. So I will see you again at least tomorrow to see what we get with test number 2. Thanks so much for joining. Super appreciate having somebody to talk through all this with. In the meantime, take care of yourself and stay out of trouble. Bye now.